The Lions, as we said, 60 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl somehow. It's, going up against the 49ers. They've met twice in the playoffs before. I don't know if you know this history here. In 1957, the Lions beat the 49ers 31-27 to win in the divisional round. They wound up winning an NFL championship that year. Then in 1983, Joe Montana and the 49ers in the divisional round beat the Lions 24-23. That's all. That's all the playoff history between these two teams. Now Sunday, they're going head-to-head for the Super Bowl. I wanted to read this message, and this is how we'll start today. Yesterday at 8, or I guess this would be Tuesday at 8:51 p.m., I get a text from Ziggy out of nowhere that just says, the Lions can do it. And I said, what did you discover? So Ziggy, please tell me please tell the guys what you told me.
So there are a few things. Here's what I was thinking. Here's what's sort of cooking around in my brain is I see last week the 49ers struggle at home and barely beat the Packers. And I think, all right, what went wrong for the 49ers that game? Well, there are a few things that went wrong. Number one, Shanahan made a number of baffling coaching decisions. We're talking punting 4th and short with the best offense in the league. Horrible usage of timeouts, right? Consistently baffling coaching decisions. Number two thing they struggled with, boy howdy, they gave up a lot of yards to Aaron Jones. The run game, they were not able to stop it from the Packers. The run defense was not ready. The pass rushers were good. Don't get me wrong. The linebackers played well, but the Packers run game was able to be well established. And number three, Brock Purdy threw some passes that if he just had some surer hands could have been intercepted. Darnell Savage, chance for a pick six, a few more missed opportunities. Then I go to this Detroit Lions team and think, well, what are they really good at, right? What is this team's strengths? Number one, Dan Campbell makes great decisions. He's consistently aggressive, especially when he's an underdog.
He's very aggressive.
I get that some people don't always look. You can run the numbers. You can look at expected win probability. He is far and away the best coach in the NFL at saving timeouts for important moments and using them when he should. Making good 4th down decisions, being aggressive when he should. Going for 2 and usually when he should. We'll set aside that absolute tilt roll. Yeah. He's generally pretty good at that. And importantly, when he's an underdog, we've seen this, he plays for variance. He makes aggressive decisions. The Lions never go down without a fight. You think, what's the strength of the Lions offense? Answer, lightning and thunder. Right, you've got David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, some of the most explosive, most effective rushers in the entire league. It's like Aaron Jones, but 2 of them.
They've been great.
Then you think, well, who have been the standout players on the defense? I'll tell you who stands out to me more than anyone else. Brian Branch. It seems whenever the Lions need a big play from the defense, he's right there with an interception or with a sack or with a huge play. So all that to say, it seems to me that the Lions have an opportunity to do what the Packers did, but you're not going to have Jared Goff throwing a critical interception because he takes care of the ball better than that.
Do you trust Jared Goff more than Brock Purdy in this game?
It's tough for me to say not. I get what people are going to say. They're going to say, look at Brock Purdy's numbers. Look at his production. He's played super well. And Brock Purdy has definitely played well. But the Lions' offensive line has protected Goff. And when Goff is protected, he doesn't turn the ball over. Brock Purdy hasn't turned the ball over much this year, but if you watch his play style, he throws a lot of risky balls. He is willing to heave it into double coverage when he really shouldn't. And you saw it in the Packers game. Even though you've got people in the media saying Brock Purdy brings it home, game-winning drive, all that's true. He made some horrendous throws that easily could have cost him the game.
Oh, by media.
Jared Goff just doesn't do that.
By media, you mean like Lombardi on Twitter?
Look, look, sure, are they trolls on Twitter? Yeah, but these are also people who get paid 6 figures to talk about sports.
Insanity. I've been seeing all the Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, we're not saying he's bad.
It's just when you watch that game and say Brock Purdy played, proved people wrong, proved the doubters wrong. I sit back and say, what game were you watching, man? He was clearly not on. The last drive to win the game, fantastic, but I'm with you. I don't particularly trust either quarterback too much in the big moment here, but Jared Goff is the one who I have more confidence in. He's just been really good all season long. 30 touchdowns, fourth in the league, 12 interceptions, is a 97.9 rating on the season, over 100 rating the past 3 games. We talked about on the reaction show to the Bucs game, Jared Goff put away Tampa Bay. He put away the Rams in those drives that the Lions not necessarily needed to have, but the ones that Jordan Love, for example, couldn't put San Francisco away. Jared Goff was doing that. And he's been great all year long. Purdy, as you said, has had a lot of moments, not a lot, but against Green Bay and then in the losses, has had moments where he's just been downright awful. And then when you get good Purdy, he's basically flawless, gets the ball where it needs to go, and the 49ers are almost unbeatable. Can you make him make those mistakes? My concern for Detroit, and this is where I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because it sounds like you think Detroit has a really good chance. I'm concerned about that pass defense, man. The past 3 weeks, they've allowed 396 yards to Nick Mullins, 367, 2 touchdowns to Stafford, 349, 3 touchdowns to Baker. I mean, they did have 2 interceptions against Baker, but this defense is getting picked apart. Cam Sutton has looked really bad over the past few weeks. I'm worried that if Deebo Samuel plays, we're talking about a 49ers offense that could score a lot of points, too many for Detroit to keep up with.
Yeah, I am. If I'm a Lions fan, I am cautiously optimistic that Deebo will play. Or at least if he will play, he's not going to be close to 100%. I mean, you read the stats. Mike Evans owned the Lions last week.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to win, but it was tough.
Puka too. What Puka go for? Like 180 or something?
Yeah. I mean, they have been vulnerable. And in particular, they've been vulnerable to deep passes. Average depth of target against, 30th in the NFL. Sack percentage, 24%. Or 24th in the NFL at only 6%. So they have struggled to sack quarterbacks, and they have struggled against the deep pass. But there's some reason for optimism. We saw last week they were able to get more players involved, right? In particular, Brian Branch had a pretty important sack. You look at, they've been starting to generate turnovers. You look at Aiden Hutchinson. He's really turned it on for the playoffs, right? People have complained all season about him not getting sacks and just sort of racking up pressures. Well, all of those pressures are finally starting to turn into production. So you're absolutely right. The Lions are going to have to get after Brock Purdy, and their deep pass defense is a concern. But on the other side, it's not like the Lions aren't familiar with their own explosive plays, right? Their weapons are as good as Green Bay between Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Khalif Raymond. They have a lot of players who are capable of getting separation and generating explosive offense. So it's not impossible, even though the Lions defense might be a little bit suspect, for them to keep up.
Yeah, and the Packers moved the ball too, quite consistently. It was really up until the end of the game when they needed one score to put it out of reach, or seemingly put it out of reach, that they started to struggle. 49ers defense made a couple plays. Jordan Love all of a sudden wasn't off necessarily, but was off on a couple throws that ultimately turned out to be the difference maker. It's it's just one of those games where Detroit's going to have to, Goff will have to show up. If Goff shows up and plays a good game, we should be looking at a back and forth contest. I'm just a little bit worried that if he's slightly off, San Francisco is going to put up points. I really do think they'll be awake for this one after the scare last weekend. They hadn't played in a while. So I'm leaning right now, if we're going to make a game pick, I'm leaning San Francisco by double digits. I know that's not what Lions fans want to hear, but it's been a great run for Detroit. This is just a really good 49er team. I think it'll be a good back and forth game for a while, but then the fourth quarter, San Francisco puts it out of reach. Are you going to go with Detroit?
Here's the number one stat to know if you're a Lions fan. You know what team, Paul, in the NFL is the best in EPA per rush on defense on the left side of the field? That critical San Francisco dominating left side of the field? The Detroit Lions.
Guess the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I obviously wouldn't be saying that, but their run defense has been one of the best in the entire NFL. And we saw it last week. If you don't have to stop Christian McCaffrey, but if you can slow him down, limit him to just 1 or 2 explosive plays and otherwise keep it contained, you will get an opportunity to generate turnovers in the pass game. The Detroit Lions, I think, are going to be able to do that. I think the offense is going to be able to keep up. And I've got the Lions winning a very close, very hard game.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not rooting against, or I know
you're rooting against. You can admit it. You don't want to see the Lions win the Super Bowl.
I don't want to see them win before the Vikings, but at the same time, I don't hate Detroit the way I really hate the Saints, the way I really dislike the Packers. It's the Saints are actually my number one. Detroit, I'm not necessarily rooting against them. I just don't want to see their success, which is kind of mean. But I'm not going to be actively cheering against them. If Detroit wins, I'll be very happy for my friends who are Lions fans. I think they're going to show up. I don't think they get blown out like Baltimore or like Baltimore blew out San Francisco. I don't think that's going to happen, or the Packers Cowboy game. I'm expecting two really physical, tough teams. Dan Campbell's not going to let them come in and get pushed around. If that Detroit offensive line holds up, which I think they will, 49ers, as stout as that defensive line is by name, the numbers they're putting up are not all world like you might expect. So if they hold up front, which I think they will, I think Detroit's going to give them a fight. But we'll see.
We'll see. GM has at their Flint, Michigan plant has officially delayed the start of their night shift on Sunday by an hour so that Lions fans can watch this game. I think all that energy has to matter for something.
Can you imagine the Lions in the Super Bowl? I mean,
this is why I'm rooting for the Lions. If the Lions can make the Super Bowl, that means any team, no matter how bad, can turn it around. And that speaks to my Vikings fan heart a little bit. Because that means maybe we'll be there someday, Paul. Maybe we'll be there
someday. You think someday? Dude, if the Cubs did it, the Lions are on their way. It has to be our turn at some point. You have to think.